You know that feeling when you're the last one online? It's late, all your friends have logged off, and it's just you. I used to love that quiet, that focus. The whole world shrinks down until it feels like you're in a cockpit with nothing but the sounds in your headphones and the glow of the screen. It was my escape, my peace. I used to love it. Until the night a random player started whispering things to me in the game chat. Things they had no way of knowing. It started with my name, something I never ever share online. But then they started describing the room I was sitting in. It was like a magician revealing a secret you've never told a soul. It was a Tuesday night, maybe 2:30 in the morning. A totally normal night. I was at the end of a long session, just grinding out the last few levels of my battle pass before the season ended. We've all been there, right? You get into that sleepy, almost meditative state where your hands just go through the motions. It's like driving a familiar road. You don't even think about the turns. Your body just knows what to do. Click, build, loot, rotate. My friends had all signed off hours ago. Their avatars were just silent, offline icons in my friends list. The house was dead quiet. My family was asleep upstairs. The only sounds were the low hum of my PC and maybe the crickets outside my window. And the only light in the whole house was the glow of my monitor, like a single campfire, painting the walls of my bedroom in weird, hypnotic colors. I queued up for a solo match, not really trying to win, just hoping to knock out a few more challenges. The battle bus flew over the island, and I decided to drop somewhere way out of the way, where I wouldn't have to fight anyone right away. I landed near Weeping Woods, and the thick trees made everything feel dark and almost claustrophobic. Even in the game, it was perfect. Quiet. For the first 10 minutes, that's exactly what it was. A peaceful, kind of boring match. I looted a few spots, gathered some mats, and just listened to the game. The thwack of my pickaxe hitting a tree, the little jingle of a chest opening. Even the distant crack of someone else using a shield potion was comforting. The storm circle was being nice too, forming right over me. I found a good hiding spot in a small 2-story building and just settled in to wait, watching the player count slowly tick down. 90, 75, 50. It was all so normal, so routine. It was like the eerie calm before a thunderstorm, letting you get comfortable right before it hits. The player count hit 23, the quiet part of the mid-game. I was crouched upstairs looking out the window when a little notification popped up in the corner of my screen. The player whispered, "Now, that on its own isn't too weird. It happens. Someone wants to team up, or more often, talk trash after you eliminate them." I glanced at the username. It was just a jumble of letters and numbers, like someone had mashed their keyboard. My X7, observer, odd, but whatever. It was the message itself that made my blood run cold. Just 2 words. "Hello, Alex." I froze. I literally lifted my hands off my keyboard and mouse. Alex. That's my name. My real name. The message hit me like a key turning in a lock I never knew my life had. It's not in my username. It's not on my profile. I have always been super careful about keeping my online life and my real life separate. My gamertag is some stupid thing I came up with when I was 13. It has zero connection to my real name. My heart started hammering in my chest. This had to be a mistake, a coincidence. My mind was racing, trying to come up with a logical reason, like a computer trying to solve an impossible problem and just spitting out error after error. Is it someone from school? A friend messing with me on a new account? I quickly opened up the social panel and searched the username. GX7 Observer 4. The account was level 1. No friends, no stats. It said it was created today. A brand new account. Okay, so not a friend. Every rational explanation was evaporating like mist in the morning sun, leaving just the stark, terrifying reality. I just sat there for what felt like forever, staring at that message. My character was perfectly still in the game, hidden in the shadows. But in my room, I felt completely exposed, as if the walls around me had turned to glass. I finally managed to type back a simple, shaking message. Who is this? The reply was almost instant. You know who I am. The words just hung there on the screen, feeling way too confident, like they had a smug little smile. It terrified me. No, I didn't know. That was the whole problem. The storm was starting to close in, and the game was forcing me to move. I swallowed my fear, telling myself it was just some troll trying to freak me out. I started running towards the new circle, but my hands were jerky and paranoid. Every shadow in the game looked like another player. Every little sound made me jump. I was running through an open field when another whisper came through. You look nervous, Alex. I stopped dead. My character stood completely still in a field of digital flowers. How? How could they know that? That's a feeling, an emotion. You can't see that in a Fortnite character. It was like they weren't just watching my screen. They were reading my thoughts like a page in an open book. But I was nervous. My knuckles were white from gripping my mouse so hard. A cold sweat was starting to break out on my forehead. I frantically looked around my own room. The door was closed. The curtains were shut tight. My fingers were shaking so much I had to backspace a few times. But I typed back. How do you know my name? How are you doing this? The response is what completely broke my brain. I know a lot of things. For example, I like that poster on your wall, the one with the astronaut. I physically lurched back from my monitor. My head snapped up, and there it was, hanging on the wall right behind my monitor, totally out of view with my webcam, which I don't even have plugged in, was my poster of a lone astronaut floating in space. It was a birthday gift from my sister. There are no pictures of my room online. There is absolutely no way anyone could have known that poster was there. It was as if a ghost had reached out of the screen and pointed at something in my own room. The fear wasn't just dread anymore. It was hot, suffocating panic. It felt like falling into icy water, where the initial shock gives way to a panic that steals your breath. My breath itched. I leaned back in my chair, and it let out its usual little squeak. Another whisper. That chair always squeaks when you do that. I have to stop the story for a second. Because in that moment, sitting in that chair, I felt the kind of fear I honestly would wish on my worst enemy. It makes me wonder, have you ever had a creepy or just unexplainable thing happen to you in a game? Let me know in the comments. I seriously need to know. I'm not the only one. And if you want to hear how this nightmare ends, make sure you subscribe, because these kinds of stories, they seem to be happening a lot more than you'd think. I was paralyzed. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. My brain felt like a computer, stuck in a loop, getting a command it couldn't compute, and just flashing an error message over and over. The game was still going on. The storm was this giant purple wall closing in, But the game didn't matter anymore. The line between my screen and my reality had dissolved, like ink dropped in water. The real threat wasn't in the game. It felt like it was right here, in the room with me. The player count was down to 5. Me, GX7 observer Josh Schwab, and 3 other poor players who had no clue what kind of horror movie they'd wandered into. I still hadn't seen the observer. Their name was just a ghost in my chat. I forced my character to run, basically on autopilot, towards the tiny safe zone. My eyes weren't even in the game anymore. They were darting around my dark bedroom. Then, the final message came through. It was different. Did you remember to lock the back door, Alex? That was it. That was the line between the digital ghost and the physical threat. It was as if they had just told me they were no longer on the screen, but standing right outside my house. My blood went ice cold, and then I heard it. A sound from downstairs. A low, wooden creak. The unmistakable sound of one single floorboard being stepped on. It wasn't the house settling. It was a clear, isolated sound, and it was followed by a heavy, waiting silence. I didn't scream. I don't think I was even breathing. I ripped my headphones off, threw them on the desk, and my hands flew to the keyboard. Not to play. Alt F4. The colorful world of Fortnite vanished, replaced by my desktop wallpaper. I slammed the power button on my PC tower and held it down until the fans whirred to a stop and the monitor went black. And in its dark, reflective surface, all I could see was my own face, pale and wide-eyed with pure terror. I just sat there in the sudden total silence of my room. The only sound left was the frantic thumping of my own heart. Was that sound real? Or was my mind so soaked in fear that it was just making things up? It was like trying to tell the difference between a fire alarm in real life and one in a dream. The not knowing was worse than anything. Slowly, carefully, I pushed my chair back, wincing at the squeak it made. I crept to my bedroom door and opened it, inch by inch. The upstairs hallway was dark, empty. I held my breath and just listened. Nothing. Just the quiet, normal hum of the fridge downstairs. Taking courage I didn't know I had, I tiptoed down the stairs, skipping the steps I knew would creak. My eyes scanned the darkness. Living room, empty. Dining room, empty. I rounded the corner into the kitchen, and there was the back door. With a trembling hand, I reached out and twisted the lock. It was already locked, firmly, securely. I checked every window on the ground floor, all locked, all secure. There was no one there. I never found out who or what GX7 Observer 4 was. After that night, I forced myself to turn my PC back on. My hands were still shaking. I immediately went to report the player, but when I searched the username, it came back with no results. Player not found. The account was just gone. The chat log from the match was empty. It was like trying to describe a nightmare after you wake up. The fear is incredibly real to you, but all the evidence is gone. I didn't play Fortnite for a month. When I finally logged back on, I couldn't do it alone, and definitely not late at night. That quiet focus I used to love was gone, replaced by this gnawing paranoia. It's a feeling like having a permanent shadow just at the edge of your vision. The second you turn to look, it disappears. I put a piece of tape over my webcam, even though it was already unplugged. I changed every single one of my passwords, but I could never shake the feeling of being watched. Was it some kind of elaborate, terrifyingly well done prank? A hacker who got way more than just my game data? Or was it something else? I don't have an answer. All I have is the memory and a warning. Be careful online. You might feel like you're alone in your room, safe behind your screen. But you never really know who or what is on the other side watching you back.